Good evening, class, and welcome to instructional video number 4. I do promise to keep this one short. I know I said that in the last ones, but every video is going to be a little different. This one, we're going to be focusing on the building block of the research paper. The building block of the research paper is the paragraph. If you look at any research paper, whether it be 5 pages, 10 pages, 100 pages, you're looking at a collection of well-written, strong paragraphs organized together to tell a particular story. Hopefully a convincing one, hopefully one that is backed up by facts and evidence. But it all starts with the paragraph. Now, I know all of you know how to write paragraphs based on some of your recent work. Some of you know how to write paragraphs quite well. I've been very impressed with some of the work that I've read. What I want to do is look a little closer at the requirements of the academic paragraph, or the paragraph within an academic research paper, to point out how it differs from maybe the paragraph that you would write for a creative writing class, or a paragraph that you're writing in your own personal diary or journal. Because there's some key differences. There's a lot of similarities, but there are some key differences that you need to be aware of, as well as some stylistic requirements that I noticed that many of you in your writing need some assistance with. So that's what I'm here to do, give you some assistance in making your paragraphs for research stronger, more suitable for a research paper. And also, I hope to be able to help you with your writing stamina. If you notice, in the past couple of assignments, I've been asking for 100 words, 250 words. This is all to be able to build up your ability to write longer pieces of work. When you go to your independent schools, into college, beyond, wherever life takes you, you will be called on to write a minimum of 5 pages, 10 pages, 15 pages, 400 words. And you have to be able to meet those minimum requirements. So just like in running a marathon, you have to build up your stamina, you have to build up your endurance. Likewise with writing, you have to build up your strength, endurance, and stamina to go the distance. So if you're asked to write 250 words, you should be able to do that easily. If you're asked to write an essay of 1,000 words, you should be able to do that, or 4 pages or 5 pages, whatever the case may be. There are specific ways of doing it. It's not just sitting at the computer and hammering away. There's some specific techniques to help you increase the length of your documents, but also at the same time, the quality of the writing. And that's most important. The quality should drive the length, right? If you write well, you write with depth, detail, backed up with evidence, meeting the minimum page length requirements should not be that difficult. So at any rate, let me stay focused, because I did promise this to be a short one. The paragraph, let's talk about that. The paragraph is the basic building block of all research papers. As I said earlier, if you look at any research paper, it consists of a collection of paragraphs. Now, all paragraphs have the main idea, supporting sentences, or the body sentences, and a conclusion. You know how to do that, right? The paragraph represents a single unit of thought. Main idea, main thought, supporting sentences, and some kind of conclusion, right? You've done that. The paragraph within a research paper is similar. Don't get me wrong, it's very similar. You have a main idea, you have supporting sentences, you have some kind of summary. But what is different is that the paragraphs that go into a research paper are all expressions and reflections of critical thinking. Now, what does that mean, right? You hear this term constantly. Think critically, we need more critical thinking, etc. Well, there's a lot of definitions for that, and I could make a whole separate video on that topic, but I'm not. For our purposes, critical thinking is simply the careful analysis of a problem. The careful analysis of any situation in which you take a side and then you support that side with reasons, right? So for our purposes, again, we could explore different interpretations, different dimensions, definitions of critical thinking, but for our purposes, we are looking at a problem, we're analyzing it carefully, looking at the strengths and weaknesses, looking at it from both sides, because every research problem, as we've discussed previously, should be made up of at least two tenable, that is, reasonable sides, pro and con, for and against, however you want to phrase it. There should be at least two sides. You look at the problem, you analyze it carefully, you think about it, right? You take a side, and then you develop that position with reasonable, logical, persuasive reasons. This, for our purposes, is what critical thinking is. I mean, we are constantly practicing critical thinking in our everyday life, almost constantly, right? We're making choices. We're weighing the cost and the benefits, the pros and the cons of those choices. Should I drink the healthy beverage, or should I drink the sugary Coca-Cola, right? Sometimes, we have a lot of different criteria for making our choices, but we're constantly in the position of making choices. In the paragraph for the academic research paper, you are always arguing for something. And this is such an important point, because you're not writing book reports. You're not just sort of giving these glorified Wikipedia entries, summaries of generic summary of information. You are taking a side on something, and then you are developing it with rational, reasonable arguments. Now, when I say rational or reasonable, it has to be something that makes sense. It's not absurd. It's not implausible. It's not, some kind of ridiculous suggestion. It is something that any thinking person can look at and say, that makes sense, right? For example, just pulling something out of thin air, the issue of defunding the police that was in the news quite a bit recently. You can look at that situation. First of all, you'd have to looking at the problem, you have to figure out, well, what does that mean to defund the police, right? Then you would look at the pros and the cons of both sides. You would weigh them just like you would weigh something on a scale, two things on a scale, and whichever position has the strongest arguments that are logical, makes sense to support that position, is the one that you should go with. That is the one that you should be writing on. So again, when you take this back in terms of writing, you are just like in a standard paragraph, stating a thesis or stating a main idea, but for our purposes, you're going to be stating an argument. You're taking a side on something, and then you are developing that argument with, again, sound reasons. Couple tips. In any problem, if you can find research, obviously, to support it and bring that research into the paragraph, that helps. Not only does that help strengthen your position, but also it's one of those words that you bring in, that you quote, right, from an external source. Those words count in, the total of however many pages or however many words that you need. So, bring in that outside research. Another important tip, this is not so much a tip, is that in academic research, is a requirement really, not a tip. You need to write in Times New Roman 12-point font. The writing needs to be double spaced. It needs to be in black ink, right? These are some of the basic requirements of it. So again, let me sum up, because I want to get this underneath 10 minutes and I'm at 9 minutes and 30. The paragraph in academic research is the expression of critical thinking. Every paragraph within a research paper should be arguing something and developing ideas or reasons to support it. You need to, or it helps strongly to bring in outside research, quotes, and it has to be in Times New Roman 12-point font, double spaced, and in black ink. That's it. Bye.